Welcome to the Wellness in Asheville podcast, where we shine a light on the people, practices, and places that make this city one of the most inspiring wellness communities in the country. I'm your host, Travis Richardson, founder of Be Well Asheville, your local news source for health, wellness, and community events. Okay, so today we have Jaclyn Rebekah Roberts going to join us. She operates Natural Rhythm Yoga and the SoulFit Academy out of West Asheville Yoga. She is a board certified health coach, and she guides women to reconnect with their bodies, reclaim their energy, and live with conscious intention. She has expertise as a board certified health coach, an experienced registered yoga teacher, medical Reiki master, and her work bridges hormone balance, trauma-informed practices, and spiritual growth. And in my experience so far with Jaclyn, I really, during the conversation, I just had she has such a soothing presence, just a really relaxed person. And that energy just sort of bled over into me and my presence. And it's so funny sometimes, isn't it, how we pick up the nature of another person and our surroundings. And in this case, it was definitely true for me. And I sometimes find it fascinating how if I'll be talking to someone and they're like, let's say, a fast talker, I start speeding up my speech as well. And in the same way, if somebody talks a little more slowly, I start to slow down. And isn't also interesting that that's can be sometimes cultural. In fact, I remember reading a study in college, and they showed that the slower speaking students in a particular often were thought of as not as intelligent as the faster speaking students. And what they found is that culturally, that is was their nature. Here we're talking about the indigenous. Actually, they were they took their time to respond. They were thoughtful. They were intentional. And here, the modern school system always has this way of shutting down those groups that don't conform with whatever the uh, mainstream sort of thought is on what we should be doing. And so it was really nice because Jaclyn just reminded me to slow down. And I think that's one of her main gifts is she reminds all of the people that she's around to to check in with their energy and to live consciously. So let's without further ado jump right in. Okay, we have Jaclyn Roberts here today to talk about all things women's health, hormones, midlife transitions, and more. Welcome to the show, Jaclyn.
Thanks, Travis. I'm glad to be
Well,
here.
yeah, I'm really glad you're here too. I'm really excited to talk about this because I feel like out of all the speakers I've got for season one, we've got 25 speakers, I think it is. We don't have a lot of speakers talking about women's health. We have a couple, but not that many. So I really want to dive deep into this topic in whatever way you want to go. So thank you. It's a blessing to have you speak on behalf of women out there.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a very important topic. So I'm excited to talk more about it.
Yeah. So, starting off on this, you talk about listening to the body's sensations and rhythms, and using that as a way to sort of enhance awareness and kind of like, I guess, expand consciousness to some degree. What
Mhm.
do you exactly mean by that?
Yeah, I think as we progress different stages on as a woman on a hormone journey, it's important to really tune into your energy, like as far as your cycle goes. Um, and modify your lifestyle and practices based on that, whether that be food that you're consuming, the people that you surround yourself with, um, what type of exercise might be good for you based on your energy. Um, I think meditation is super important, practicing mindfulness. And then also a big one is really connecting with other women who are experiencing some of the same things that you're going through.
So, like, being, like, more intentional about it and using it as an opportunity to kinda dive deeper instead of a thing to dread. Like, I mean, I'm
Right.
not a woman, but I've been around enough women, and there's this like, oh God, here we go again, kind of feeling. And but I've also seen the flip side where I've seen women are like, they do what you just said, and I've had
Mhm.
experiences being around women that are like, all right, well, I'm going to go do X, Y, and Z now because it's my opportunity. They look at it as an opportunity.
Mhm. Mhm. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So with this journey you're on, working with women who are sort of transitioning into that next stage of life, I guess, is there a community attached to that too? Or like,
Yeah, so there'll I have a member site that you would be part of, um, a Facebook group, and then also like a group me chat. So like you can stay in communication with myself and or others if you're in a group situation. So there'll be like it'll be very community focused.
mm, that's super important, right? Like,
Exactly. Yeah, it's really nice to have that connection. It's typically cheaper for people to do groups and you're able to help one another too through the process. So,
yeah, yeah, that's awesome. That's super cool. So let's talk about the shifts that do happen
mhm.
hormonally. Like what actually happens, and how do you help?
Yeah. So typically, like the perimenopausal phase is around like 35 to 50. It's a pretty wide range. Everyone's really unique when they go through the process, but um, a lot of like the symptoms people are having are like lack of motivation, low energy, sleep disturbance, just kind of irritation, I guess, or less tolerance with certain things. Um, so it's like such an important time, like we kind of talked about earlier, to like really check in and see where you're at
Mhm.
and how can you best support yourself, or like, who can you surround yourself? What kind of team do you need to kind of get through such a important time? And also a big one too is like body changes. Oftentimes people are like losing muscle or gaining a little bit of weight. So it's super important to have the support you need during those times. Um, but the beautiful thing that happens is you learn more about yourself and become like your biggest champion and gain a lot more wisdom.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
my partner, and one of the topics that I hear a lot about is hormone replacement therapy. Should I get it? Should I
hmm
not? And
Yeah.
there's like, controversy on that. Like, what's your stance on that?
Yeah. I'm no doctor. I personally am on hormone replacement therapy. I think
Hmm.
there's a lot of science that says now that it's a lot safer than they used to think. Especially in menopause because of the risk of bone loss. And for me, like just having that mood support is crucial. But not everybody needs it. There's also like a lot of natural herbal ways to support yourself as well, and lifestyle changes and nutrition, of course. So, yeah,
Yeah,
everyone's so unique.
right. And that,
Yeah,
definitely, there's no one size fits all. I think that's the problem
right,
with Western medicine in general is that it's like everything ends up trying to be a pill that works for everybody, and it's like that's just never the case.
right.
Um,
Yeah.
But yeah, I read it. I remember reading a study on hormone replacement therapy because I study longevity. I like
hmm
to learn about the things that expand or extend lifespan and
Yeah,
health span. So I do both.
right.
But one of those was they showed there was a group of, I think it's like 12 women, and um, it's a small group. So obviously we're not talking a large study. We're talking a small group, but they looked at the epigenetic markers for these women, and I'm just going to botch this completely, but the bottom line here, the long story short, is that one of the women showed a like 20-year, so she went on hormone replacement therapy, and they didn't know why because her biological age dropped like a ridiculous amount, right? So let's say
hmm
she's 68, and then before the intervention, then she does the intervention and they show she's 48, something like this.
Yeah,
And they say, what? And she's an
right.
outlier. We have to throw it out. She's an outlier, right? It's
hmm
just like that doesn't happen in 10 weeks or whatever it was. Like, well,
Yeah,
they come to find that she started hormone replacement therapy. And that's a mic drop moment, right? if
Right.
it's true, if that's
Mhm.
true, then biologically that's saying that that hormone replacement therapy is at a cellular level potentially rejuvenative, and that's
Yeah.
pretty huge. And
Mhm.
I'm waiting for
Right.
more research on that. That's a big deal, though. That's a huge deal to me.
Well, I believe that because, I mean, it definitely can help support your sleep, um, and, balance. So, like, what one thing that happens as you go through menopause is, you start to lose those sex hormones, right? So it's
Hmm.
taking HRT balances that back out, and so I could totally see how that would support you, like, at a cellular level,
Right.
right? And kind of like anti-aging, if you will.
Right. I mean, hormones are drivers of like how, they're like enzymes. It's like they drive like every process in the body. So if you can
Right,
start to hit like, if you can like function better at a systemic level like that, then you're going to start to make improvements, and you're going to move the needle. If that's what you're into, you're going to move the needle in longevity arena anyways, quite a bit more.
right. Yeah.
Um, so tell me, so around uh women sort of this idea of reclaiming agency. So something that
Mhm,
we had talked about, reclaiming agency and uh, through their own conscious awareness in as part of this midlife transitionary period. What do you
mhm.
mean by reclaiming agency?
What happens is for so many years, oftentimes women are part of our role is like serving others, being not everyone's a mother, but being a mother
Mhm.
that could play out in different ways, whether that be a business owner, being a yoga teacher, having children. So oftentimes, like we put ourselves last
Mhm.
for many, many years, and then your body gets to a point that you can no longer do that
Mhm.
because you have less to give. That's those sex hormones. So reclaiming agency, like coming back home to yourself. Um, and I think a lot of women go through like this midlife. My therapist likes to call it a transition, midlife transition rather than a midlife crisis. Um, which again is like a really beautiful thing because you you kind of come into your heart or your soul and really do what's right for you rather than serving all the expectations of other people.
Right. So that's a huge thing. We spend so many of our years just especially when with kids, like in our
Mhm.
different ways. This whole
Right.
idea of like taking care of ourselves and getting back to finding rituals that
Mhm.
help us heal and come back to who we are, because you lose that, when you're
Right?
going
Yeah.
through all that period.
Mhm. Definitely.
So tell me then how we can incorporate more conscious practices in our lives,
Mm.
like
Yeah.
meditation, yoga. Like, how do you approach that with the women that you work with?
Yeah, I think a big part of it is having the support of somebody or a teacher, of course, or other people. So movement is so important just to move energy through the body and build muscle or support muscle, maintain bone health, build strength, manage flexibility. And then, so that's one component. And then, of course, breath work is super important. So I always like to incorporate like some grounding and breathing practices in every session. Um, and then I think everybody could benefit from a meditation practice. And it doesn't have to be at 1 hour long, it could be just a couple minutes every day. I think consistency, like short, consistent practices, are more beneficial than sitting for 1 hour a week or something like that. Um, there's so many components. And then as you do those practices, you just start to learn more about yourself and become a better person. And, if you want to dive deeper into the philosophy behind yoga, which is like showing up with compassion and being truthful and really just trying to be the best version of yourself. And yeah, so as you help yourself, then you're naturally helping heal the rest of the world too,
Right. You have
which
more to give.
seems, yeah, exactly, a more gift. Mhm.
Yeah, and I think for me, my understanding and like what I've seen in the world is that when somebody does one thing for themselves, like let's say
Mhm.
they start up a breathwork practice, and that then leads them to become maybe more mindful in general. So maybe they're less easy to lash out and
Right.
at someone because they're becoming more centered. Uh,
Mhm.
what kind of breath work do you do? Do you teach?
Um, really just simple, like, increasing the length of the exhale is a really big one for people. So, like, doing an inhale of 4, exhaling for 6 or 8, that really helps to calm the nervous system, activating the parasympathetic nervous system. I love alternate nostril breathing. Nadi
Mm,
Shodhana is a really great one, to balance, like, the masculine and feminine energy. Again, just, like, regulating the nervous system. It kinda depends on each person's unique need. Like, I teach a 7 AM online class, um, through my employer, and it's in the morning, so we do Kapalabhati, like breath of fire, because usually people haven't eaten, and it increases energy, and it's really great for digestion, so it's a good way to start the day. Yeah,
nice. Yeah,
but I
nice.
mean, it can be super simple. Mhm,
R Right, yeah, we complicate things, I think, and make our, practices. I don't mean to bash on anybody who loves Wim Hof. I mean, he's literally, like, transformed how we think of what's possible because, I mean,
mhm,
if a listener hasn't heard of him, he's known for his extreme, practices of breath work and with cold and ice, and they did an
yeah,
experiment where they injected him with E. coli, I think it was, and basically showed that through his technique, the E. coli died, not him.
wow,
so,
that's crazy, yeah,
and then he went on to do that with like ten other practitioners. They literally
mhm,
had them just put that into and E. coli is no joke. It is serious business you're
mhm,
messing with there. But anyways, it talks, speaks to the power of the breath and the yogis from India, thousands of years ago. This is not new. They've
right,
practices all around the world, right? Have been doing this.
yeah, yeah, it's interesting, like, back in the day in India, the original yoga, um, book, Pradipika, was, basically just seated postures and breathing.
Hmm.
So, but it wasn't really like any movement. But we need that here now. Like, we need a little movement to help quiet our minds.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because we don't move. We sit
Right.
down all day. We
That's true.
we sit in frustration sometimes at the computer for hours on end.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So tell me about you have this perspective on how trauma can get stored and locked into the body,
Mhm.
and I assume that's why you partly love yoga is because you understand how that obviously releases and helps to unlock that. Tell me
Right.
about the idea of trauma being locked in the body. What do you mean by that?
Hmm. Yeah, that's pretty complex. Like, from a yogic perspective, a lot of people say trauma specifically gets stuck, like, in your hips, but really it could be stored anywhere, and I think what it shows up like is tightness, tension, being, like, disembodied. Like,
Mm,
a lot of people, probably not just women, practice yoga for years and are never really even in their body because they didn't feel safe in their body. So, yoga can help you through the breath and just through the body awareness that you learn. It can start to help you feel safe enough in your body. So then you can start to move some of that tension, stuck energy through. So it can show up in the neck and the
mm.
shoulders and the hips. Um, yeah. So I think it's a great way to help release that.
Yeah, I think that don't we have this I think we have the situation where because we are a lot of us, when we have trauma, we've been through something extreme, we tend to
Mhm.
hold ourselves in a different way. Like, we're a little more
Right.
like locked up, I guess. I mean, physically, like literally, like tensed up because we're anticipating that next blow to come, whatever it might be,
Right.
however that
Yeah.
blow came in the past. And so,
Mhm.
I guess I just, for me, my observation personally is that I will very often forget about the way I'm holding myself, my posture, my breath, and I'll be like, "Oh my god,
Right.
I'm like, why my stomach, I'm holding this really like tension in my stomach. I'm not breathing relaxed." And it's weird because I'm just working at the computer. I'm not even like, don't feel like anything is happening to me, but but
Mhm.
when I check in, I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm completely locked up in stress right now." And there's no bear attacking me. Although I did have a bear this
Right.
morning come to the window, actually.
There's been a lot of bears this year. Yeah,
Yeah.
sightings in the
Yeah.
neighborhood. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's so true, like, without the awareness or, like, when you're busy, it's hard to really stay focused on your posture or, like, maybe you're clenching your jaw, and oftentimes, if you really pay attention, maybe you're even holding your breath. Like, of course, we're breathing or we wouldn't be alive, but, so, yeah, it's just taking moments throughout I think, like, as you become an experienced yoga person, um, you kind of weave the practice throughout your day so you're more mindful, you notice your breath more, you take a moment to check in or, things like that, and that can really help move tension, past
Mhm.
traumas through the body for sure.
Do you like, what's your personal yoga practice look like? Do you
Mhm.
have like a set yoga time each day, or do you, like me, I just actually, when people ask me, what do you, because I was trained in yoga, and they see that I'm pretty flexible, and I'm like,
Uh-huh.
actually, I just strike poses all day. I
Nice. Oh, I love that.
That's my practice, is when I feel tense, I strike a pose.
Nice. That's perfect. Yeah, I do practice yoga every morning at home. It's usually pretty short, to be honest, maybe 10 to 30 minutes based on how much time I have. Um, and it consists of like seated meditation, breathing, maybe 5 sun salutations. Just kind of depends on what I feel like. And then I go to 2 yoga classes a week. But the beautiful thing about becoming a yoga teacher, as you know, probably that most people do develop some sort of home practice. So I've been pretty religious about it since then, which is wonderful.
Yeah, so, I guess for you personally, what have you seen the changes have been, since
Mm,
starting yoga?
yeah, I'm definitely more grounded. Um, I can manage my stress levels better. I'm more mindful. I'm more embodied now. I'm more compassionate. Um, yeah, I'm more resilient. I can kind of handle anything that comes my way.
Hmm. I had a yoga teacher tell me, my yoga teacher said, I asked him, or somebody asked him why he practiced yoga, just a simple question, like, why do you,
Hmm.
what keeps you doing this year after year? And he says, after you do yoga long enough, he said, I don't like the person I become when I don't do it.
Exactly. So true.
and this is and this is a beautiful, he's a very compassionate, beautiful human being, and I'm like, I don't know
Hmm.
what kind of, but he doesn't, he means that, he feels, you'll be a little more edgy, a little more,
Exactly.
just on edge.
Hmm. Yeah, a little more like it's easier now for me to respond than just be reactive. Where I probably for many years was very reactive, being a Aries fire sign.
So what other practices do you do? What other things wellness related do you do for yourself?
Yeah, in the last handful of years, I started weight training. And in the last year, I started practicing CrossFit like three to four times a week at Pisgah Fitness. I love it.
Mm.
My coach Ben is amazing, and it challenges me to do things that I wouldn't normally do.
Nice. Well, shout out to Coach Ben, over there. We'll try to put that in the show notes there for anybody who's interested in a good CrossFit.
Cool.
Um, Yeah, that's an empowering modality too. When you see that you can learn to do some of those movements, what would you tell women who might be maybe intimidated by a thing like I'm intimidated by CrossFit, honestly.
It is. It's very intimidating. Yeah, I think, probably find like yoga, like find a coach or a teacher that you like, find a location that's convenient. There's always ways, just like in yoga, that you can modify to and um yeah, Ben's really great about helping person modify their practice. So yeah, it's totally accessible for anybody. That I mean, that's the only CrossFit studio I've been to. It doesn't seem maybe as intense as some, but I can't say that for sure. But it's a nice mix of strength training and cardio. So, and I love the strength training component, and I hate cardio. So I go because I think both are important.
Yeah, yeah, and they are. I have to go to classes sometimes because I just myself cannot push myself like you do at a
Hmm.
class. Classes are just amazing for that. So,
Right.
question two. Now, you've obviously practiced yoga for a while, and after you've done yoga for long enough, especially with teacher training, you end up coming across different ideas like how to eat based off of your dosha or
Hmm.
kundalini yoga, which is really interesting practice. I guess, what do you do anything outside of just the traditional kind of what we think of yoga asanas or poses? Do you eat by your dosha? Do you do any other extra yoga practices that are interesting?
Yeah. Well, I started out practicing, I was 20, and I stumbled into my first Ashtanga yoga class, which is like pretty rigorous, same set of postures done every time. And I was in really great shape and it helped me quit smoking. So I did that for about 10 years. And then decided to take yoga teacher training, which was more alignment based vinyasa, kind of like BKS Iyengar based. And so I kind of shifted more into practicing vinyasa. Like it made sense too with my body, like to transition into something less strict, and more like creative and less intense. So and then through my advanced teacher training, I did that at Yoga Yoga in Austin, and it was very integrative in that I was practicing with a lot of different teachers nationwide, that would come through the studio. And a few of them, well, Leslie Kaminoff and Chase Bozart were, they studied directly with, gosh, I can't think of his name right now, but it's more of like a therapeutic yoga. So, like, I like to combine a lot of different types of yoga. I have done some Kundalini yoga. That was probably my least favorite, but I'm sure there's like some people love it. So it's really just trying a lot of different teachers and styles till you find
Hmm.
something that you like.
Yeah, yeah, I did Kundalini a little bit, and it's just so vigorous, and it's kind of challenging because of the quick nature of the switching of the postures and things, breath and all
Right.
that. But
Yeah.
definitely can produce massive releases of I don't know what. I
Right.
did it one
Like
time and
energy.
cried. Yeah, just cry,
Exactly.
tears, just
Yeah.
where is this coming from?
Right.
Um,
Maybe
Interesting.
trauma being released.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I have some of that. Being human on Earth and
Right.
is
Exactly.
traumatic in itself, let alone other things.
I would
Um,
agree. I would agree with that.
so I think it's important to mention board certified health coach. I don't know that this is a certification that a lot of people understand. And
Yeah, I think, well, I work for a doctor during my day job, so it was important like for the just can't think of the right word, but like being reputable, right?
hmm hmm
Um there's a lot of people out there that call themselves coaches that maybe haven't done very much training. But I did, so I studied at virtually through the Integrative Institute of Nutrition. And then I took their Practicum 2.0 course that prepares you for the board certification test, which was very hard. You have to sit there for 4 hours. It was super hard. I had to take it twice because I'm not a good tester, or at least in my mind, I told myself that. Um, but yeah, it's rooted in like motivational interviewing, positive psychology, the stage model of learning. So it's a great tool or accountability for coaches to coach rather than just tell people what to do, which we know isn't effective because people aren't going to do, like, they have to come to the conclusion or the answers inside. And that's what those tools kind of help you meet people where they're at, and then guide them to the answers inside and help motivate them and hold them accountable.
All right. So, Jaclyn, we have time for just one more question. I want to hear a little bit more about SoulFit Academy and your work as a board certified health coach. And then we'll go ahead and wrap it up.
Yeah, so I'm launching SoulFit Academy, and um, offer one-on-one coaching sessions. I'll be building out educational material, creating blogs, but it's really just a great resource for midlife women to come together and support each other and get the accountability and information they need to really flourish. Because there seems to be like a lot of conflicting advice out there, as we all know. So it'll be a really great resource for people to get on the same page. But also, it'll be really custom to each woman's unique journey because we're also bio individual, as you know, being a board certified health coach.
Well, Jaclyn, thank you so much for sharing your insights and wisdom today. For listeners who want to learn more, you can visit naturalrhythmyoga.com or soulfitacademy.com and follow her on Instagram at soul_fit academy and at natural rhythm yoga. Don't forget to grab her free guide, 3 hacks to balance your hormones during perimenopause without giving up caffeine. And if you loved this conversation, of course, please follow the podcast, rate and review it, and share it with a friend who's on their wellness journey. You can also check out Asheville Wellness News events and our newsletter at bewellavl.com. You can catch the next episode while on your way up to visit Mount Mitchell, or cruising down I-26, or on your way to catch a nice sunset view over at the Black Balsam Knob. You can check out more Asheville Wellness news and events and join our newsletter at bewellasheville.com. Thank you for being the best part of our wellness community. And until next time, be well.